Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Hello, my friends. Everybody knows I am. We say so easily, I. What do we mean with that? I. In the context of the story, we have learned to attach all kinds of ideas to that statement. I am like this, I am like that. I'm a woman, I'm a man. Was born then and then. There is a whole story attached to it. And yet that story changes all the time. And the notions that are attached to the I are changing. Notions were different when we were kids, and adolescent, 20 years, 30 years. And as the years passing, notions may change. And yet, when I say I, without the thought, without holding on to the story, there is that most familiar sense of presence. And it was the same when we were kids. No matter what happened in the life, it was the same. Hardly we are ever aware of that. We've gotten so used to be fixed with our attention on the mental level, the thoughts that are revolving about things that going in all directions, the thoughts that are creating this me personality and think, and then we think about it all the time and identify. And yet prior to that, there is simply that sense of presence. I, I am. In the Old Testament, when God was asked, "What is your name?" God answered, "I am what I am." And that is your name, that is my name, that is everybody's name. I am. If we simply could remember to bring the attention back to that, get rooted in that, then we could live a life free of suffering. For in this timeless now, there is no suffering. If we simply could live a life being rooted in that sense of presence, then the experience would start to unfold all by itself, naturally. For it is the nature of consciousness to expand, to unfold. It is all that mental work that we are consciously and unconsciously doing all the time and identifying with that is preventing this from happening. You can ask the question, who am I? If we use it as an intellectual question, we can talk a lot about it. If we use it as just a way of drawing the attention back to that sense of presence, there is only silence. Nothing can really be said about it. We cannot possibly ask, am I? I mean, it's a completely silly question because I have to be there to ask this question. That something is there. We cannot reasonably question that. As soon as we create an image, we can question all the time. Is it true? Is it imagination? Am I fooling myself? Am I telling stories to myself? We can be very dependent on what people tell about that picture, about that image. Be very happy if they are positive, be very unhappy if they are not positive. But prior to that, there is that sense of presence. I. When we just say this word, when we think this word, immediately it connects with that. Immediately it connects with the sense of presence. What am I? There is no answer to it. You are the answer. I am what I am. It's not some God up there who have said this to Moses. I am what I am. That divinity is the essence of everybody. I am. I am what I am. Here now. We just have to convince ourselves that it is worth the trouble to really apply ourselves. Bring the attention back again and again because it goes out away from it, creates all kinds of stories and is identified with out of habit because everybody is doing it. We have learned to do it. We have grown up to do it all the time. And then it's the normal way of existing. But actually, it's just the usual way of existing. And we can undo that learning that we have consciously and unconsciously imbibed, and in such a strong way that it seems there is no other way of existing, but it's wrong. If we really apply ourselves and bring the attention back to that, then the whole way of existing starts to change. All the attachments start to slowly drop. Some may drop immediately, some may take their own time to drop. There is nothing that is in any way worth that we can say, no, I'm not doing it because I have something more interesting. Whatever the apparently interesting things we can do, we can gain, we can achieve, that can happen in this world, they are nothing compared to that wealth that is waiting to be discovered. Just convince yourself that it's worth the trouble. Convince the mind, convince the old habit it's worth the trouble to spend our time catching the attention, bringing it back, catching it again, bringing it back, catching it again, and bringing it back. And then it will start to happen that it simply stays there effortlessly. Sometimes it's just a split second. Sometimes it may be a moment, and then there may be a period where it's simply there. But then out of habit, the mind starts again. That connection seems to be severed again. And there, all we can do is we start again, intending to remember, bring the attention back home, be here now, timelessly now. That that we are touching. When we say I, that's so totally familiar sense of presence. That has nothing to do with interpretations, nothing to do with images, not the image that we are creating in our mind, not the image that others are creating in their mind. It is simply that sense of presence. It's time. Nothing can blemish that. Nothing can spoil that. Nothing can really destroy that. It's there. We just have to have that motivation to go about it. And when it starts to happen spontaneously by itself, then that is inspiring to continue. And when it's slipping away again, there is not a reason to feel bad about it and to think, what did I do wrong? It was just not time that it could stay. Then we simply continue coming back to somehow or other catch that attention and bring it home. And be here, be now, and learn to relax with that. Let's leave like this. Let's not run after castles in the air. Playfully we can live our life, play our role, whatever is there that has to be somehow accomplished on this level, let's do it. But at the same time, we can always be aware. This is the ground. This is always there. Let's get rooted in that and live from that perspective. And then all the outer stuff becomes play. We stop taking it so serious. That doesn't prevent us from being efficient. In contrary, sometimes we may be much more efficient if we are not always worrying about things. Sometimes the tendency may be there to let's protect oneself. If there is not always the fear, ooh, what could happen to me? But things have the tendency to fall in place more and more. And even if somehow it is in the script that we have to go through difficult situations, then that is also just to make that way of existing stronger. That we learn to be rooted in that no matter what is happening, even if the circumstances are awkward, even if the circumstances are in such a way that people have the tendency to suffer if they are in such a situation, We can learn not to do so, and then a worse situation actually contribute that we are getting stronger and stronger and stronger in that natural way of existing, in that natural way of living. Let's live like this. Okay, let the subject go. Hurry, hurry, hurry. And then I'm asking you, my friends, is there anyone who would like to come in, say something? You're welcome to do so.
Hi, Werner.
Hello,
It's
Ravi.
Ravi.
Hello,
Hi.
Ravi. Yeah.
So I was listening to what you said about convincing you have to convince your mind that it's worth it, that it's important to connect. And this week, uh, and yet sometimes it just feels so hard because, well, maybe it's not even hard to connect. Yeah, I just feel like I'm being pulled by my patterns. Just an example. This week we were looking around. I chose we need to get a new car. Um, and I guess I went into survival mode because I wanted to get the car quickly because it's hard for me to move in the other cars, my ankles. And so I thought there'd be a better quality of life getting this car. But my pattern can often be there's an impatience rather than surrendering and allowing maybe grace to step in. That's too much trying hard, which compromises my health, and I'm already really tired as it is. So, I guess I'm just saying that that's one of my patterns, but when these patterns, whatever they are, come up, which are so strong, I guess part of me just wants to go along with it. There's an obsession, or it's like I'm not taking responsibility. And so one needs to actually make a choice whether they take responsibility. I guess you realize that you acknowledge that this isn't helping. And it's not good to play the victim, but this how so I don't know if you're laughing because you're laughing at the truth of it all. Maybe you can just shed some light, because is this a time when is there a special way to really, how does one convince oneself that it's worth it when we have these unconscious patterns or conscious or whatever, that so strong and drive us, that are really rooted there.
Right. How can we convince ourselves? By practicing it. Because if we practice, then sometimes you will have those moments where all that burden that we are usually carrying along when we are worrying about things simply drops off, and there is like such a sense of relief that everything says, yes, of course, that's the way to live. After that, we have the tendency to forget about it and take all the things again serious. Right, the patterns are there and they are deeply ingrained, and yet, nevertheless, we can slowly get stronger than them. We can get rid of them. We can learn to remind ourselves, in spite of the old habit that wants to pull me always into the stories and get totally immersed, then I can turn the attention like 180 degrees around and come back to that which makes the experience possible. It doesn't mean we have to become inefficient. You still can go and look and find out whether you find a good car here or there. But then it stops to be a burden. And somehow the way to convince ourselves is to keep on practicing and gradually everybody starts to understand if I could stay in that connected state, everything would be so much easier. Then all these heavy weights that we are creating in the mind, then we become aware that's what they are, mind created. If we don't do that, then nothing is really a problem. That doesn't mean everything will always smoothly, harmoniously function the way we would like it, but we won't make difficulties into a problem, but rather into a challenge to, in spite of the situation, I still can connect. We cannot convince ourselves simply by giving talks to ourselves, by intellectual discourses, but we can talk to ourselves that it's worth the trouble to practice, to try again, that we start our day with the intent, I want to remember, because only when I remember, I can do something about it. When I'm completely immersed in the situation and forget all about it, there is nothing I can do. But then when the memory comes, that then we learn to categorically, whenever the memory comes, at that moment, find a way to connect and relax in that. And if we do that consequently, then gradually the old patterns, however deep they are ingrained in the subconscious, they losing their power.
Thank you. I've got a one more question. Um, and I've noticed also like it's well, it is. It's harder to connect when I'm tired, and um, yeah, it is harder to connect when I'm tired. Can you give me some guidance around that?
Well, you find out for yourself how much it makes sense to be active and how much it makes sense to be inactive and how much it makes sense to sleep. We cannot really give out a rule, and that is after that true for everybody because it's not the same for everybody. Some people can do very well with very little sleep and it's fine, and others just need a good amount of sleep and then it's getting easier. It's good to be capable of practicing in spite of that, even if we have maybe not the sleep that we would have liked, even if we are tired, as good as we can, that we then not postpone it and say, now it's not possible, I'm too tired. Then even if I'm tired, at least I can attempt to connect. I may
Mm.
not be so successful all the time, but whether I attempt or not, that I can influence.
I guess like I'm thinking about this week where like I've been changing around, not napping during the day. I normally need a nap during the day because I don't, because of my health and stuff. But I've stopped the nap because I'm trying to get my sleep better at night, hoping it will improve my sleep. And I am meditating now to compensate for the lack of sleeping during the day. I'm meditating more, so I'll meditate. Yeah, I'm meditating more to nourish myself, give me more energy in that way. But in between the meditation, it's harder to, when I go on my walk, just say, normally I would just practice more connecting, but I've been so tired lately. It's just not, so it's just a matter, one still needs to put in some, uh, I'm trying to work out where one puts effort in versus, um, just feels harder when
Yes,
I'm that tired.
definitely. When one feels tired, everything feels harder. And actually, people are tired now. Around the world, people are more tired than usual. What is going on different levels now is really tiring. It's using the energy of our system, of our psychophysical manifestation. This is, unfortunately, this is a fact. And so In spite of that, we just do as good as we can. We can cut through all those influences that are there. But right now, it's even a bit more difficult than it has usually been.
And, and
But
I think what you say we
that's
do,
not a reason for not attempting it.
yeah.
And if we succeed, in spite of the difficulties, then it's that much stronger what we are gaining from it.
And I think yeah, you're right. It isn't a reason to not attempt, and maybe it's just good. Maybe I just need to take, maybe unconsciously there's some pressure I'm putting on myself that it's kind of not necessarily all or nothing, but I should attempt and just be okay with it just being moments of feeling connected rather than at times where it just feels so easy.
Mm.
In terms of when I am feeling really tired, just to be okay with being, yeah,
Yes.
part time. Yeah,
What helps is that when we attempt to connect, that we learn to relax at the same time. Because
okay,
especially when it's a bit difficult, the tendency is then to uh, grind our teeth under connection and get all tense about it. And then, of course, when we are tired, it's even more difficult if we're doing it that way. But if we even if the habit is strong, to get all tense when we attempt to connect, then if we consciously relax, learn to relax, and remind ourselves to relax when connecting, then gradually it's getting easier, even if one feels tired, even if it's not helpful, the situation around.
okay, I will try it.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank
Wish
you,
you well.
Werner.
Hari Om.
Hurry on,
Hari Om.
hurry on.
Is there anybody else who would like to come in? Say something?
Hello, Werner.
Hello, Dial.
A few days ago, I finished another 10-day Vipassana course, and I see some improvement in myself. Usually, I like to meditate with another students, with the teacher. I like the group energy, but this time I was trying to meditate more in the cell, alone, independently. Yes, and it's possible. I can be in the cell. Yeah, in our center, cells are quite perfect for me.
Mhm.
So silent, dark. You can regulate temperature, ventilation. So you sit, no problem. And really, I was able to meditate more than usually alone. I feel support within. Yeah. And I want to ask you about your sitting in the cell when you was sitting. What was your schedule approximately? How you was doing that?
Well, I'm not going to tell now in detail whatever I have been doing there. Uh, there was a, were also different parts because even before I was in the cell, I was totally in the mood. I have to sit and sit and sit as many hours as possible. And so already then for years, more and more and more, I extended the time of sitting. That was just my way. And that's how I had to go about it. And then when I was in that underground cell the first time, that's what I basically did. In between, I did a little yoga, and otherwise I was sitting. I read a little bit after I had lunch, and then there I was back to sitting. That was my attempt. That was my story. That doesn't mean that's how it has to be done. That's how I had to do it. I was so convinced I have to sit. The more I sit, the better. The more I sit, the better I can connect. The quicker uh, some big catastrophical change is going to happen that pulls me out of my situation. Then changes happened, and all that I have been holding on to and believing and took very serious started to very much change and didn't make much sense anymore. And then when I was the second time in the cave without coming out, the attitude was very different. So I wasn't pushing, sitting all the time, but in between I was doing some physical movement or stretching out, laying down, uh, because there was not more that idea, I have to work, and then finally I'm getting the reward of it. So then I was taking it much more relaxed. I still was awake and alert much of the time, didn't sleep very much. But that I had trained myself for years also before not to sleep much, so I could also continue to do that in the cell. This was my story. But then in the second part of it, in the cave, it wasn't that hungry thing that I want to reach something, but more it felt like this is what is on the program. This is the way for me to intensify the experience that is already there. Now, if you have felt, because you have often felt that you would like to be able to sit by yourself more, and if you have felt that it's getting easier, then it's great. That even if you go back to retreats, that at least part of the time you're doing that again. But you don't have to have a fixed number of hours in the head that you have to sit there and then think, how many hours was Werner sitting in his cell? I also want to sit the same hours.
No, it's just for inspiring, Werner. You know, if you know how somebody meditating, you understand, oh, it's possible. For example, my friend recently was sitting 17 hours without changing posture, kind of record. And when you hear it, then 3 hours, no problem. You understand, oh, if somebody can sit 17 hours, then it's okay, I can try more. So it's just for inspiration,
Yeah,
not to copy of you. So that's why I'm asking.
Actually, about sitting in one position without moving, before I was in the cave, I was more into that. That thinking that I have to sit without moving, and then slowly I increased the time to do so. But then when I was in the cave, I wasn't so much focusing on that. I was sitting until I felt I move, go and pass urine, and then come again and sit, trying just to keep the intensity up without forcing myself to sit without changing position. If you can sit for a long time without changing position, it's a helpful thing, but it's not that important. Like the Zen Buddhists, they never insist on that. They make these periods in their sessions. They sit some sit 25 minutes, other 40 minutes, or maybe 1 hour, and then they get up walking, and then they sit down again. And others, yogis, sit for hours and hours without moving. If one can do so, it's fine. But it's not that you have to think this is a necessity, that you have to force yourself to sit longer and longer. If it comes easily, that you can sit longer and longer without moving, that may be helpful, because of it helps the energetic thing in the body, and after some times it becomes easier to be relaxed and connected. But then after, if you go on and on sitting, then that may also change again, that there, in spite of not moving, there comes again a time where it starts to get more difficult again. And if you sit through that again, then it may become easier again. But right, you can draw inspiration, but not think, if one person can do that, then I also have to do that.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. And do you have a window in your cell?
Actually, first it was just you came down the stairs and then went round the corner, and from there came the air. In the opposite the stairs, there was higher up a little split in the wall that it could pull also a bit through. And from there, a little fresh air came into the cell. It wasn't very winded, but then when I stayed in it and added a toilet, then I had a door that I could open, and then there came a little draft of air through the cell because of that.
And size was 2 meter on 2 meter or 2 meter on 1 meter?
Somewhat
The
like
size
that.
of the
It
cell?
was, yes, about 2 meter and a bit more than 1 meter, like 120 or so.
I see. Yeah, very small.
Right. Right.
Okay, thank you, Werner. I don't know what to ask.
Yeah, it's good.
Hari Om.
We leave it
Hari
at that.
Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to come and say something? I come back to something that we talked with Ravi. At least we touched the subject of learning when we make an effort not to get all tense. It's important that we learn that, because otherwise the efforts always look terrible. And then we force ourselves to make efforts and push more, and something starts to resist and resist more and resist more. And then if we do that too long, then comes a period we just have the feeling of throwing all away and not making any effort anymore. That's also, well, usually it's being taught that you cannot somehow do something with your willpower directly. What is more important is to be alert. Then with the will, try to do something. The will is involved that we at all try. The will is involved that we keep going. But it's more important that we learn to be alert. And then in that alertness, learn to relax. And then when that ability is growing to relax, then we can also more and more make an effort and relax at the same time. And then that ability is becoming even stronger, then actually one can directly use the will. Why it is not advisable to, with willpower, try to reach something. With willpower, try to control. With willpower, try to get somewhere. Because without being aware of it, when one uses the will, the tendency is there that one gets all tense. And on the different levels, even physically, that the body is getting all tense, the muscles are getting tense, energetically tense, and then, of course, psychologically, there is also that tension. But we can become aware of that and learn to relax. But for that, already a good amount of alertness has to be there. But if we keep on reminding ourselves to relax, then eventually it is also possible to directly use the will. Work with the will, but remain relaxed. And then the will becomes efficient and a powerful tool. But it's more important that we first learn to relax. Relax while making effort. For a moment, at times, it may be totally justified, a moment of tension, but we can do that consciously. And then we let go again, not stay with the tension. That is the thing about reminding ourselves to connect, that we are not doing it with grinding our teeth, because otherwise we don't want to remember, because we know then there is again that job to do. But that we somehow find a way to connect and relax. You see, this aspect, I keep on talking about it and repeating it because I think it's very, very important. If we learn to relax, and then also Ravi asked, how can we convince ourselves? If we learn to relax when we are connected, if we learn to connect even when we attempt to connect, then the experience is much sweeter, and then it's easier to convince the mind to go for it. If you are all full of tension, training, invariably the moment comes where that resistance then becomes so strong that we have to stop. Make an effort and relax. Remember to connect, but do it playfully, with relaxation. And then momentarily it may have it gives the impression that you get further when you strain, but it's very momentary. It comes, and immediately as soon as that strain relaxes, boom, it goes. But if we connect and relax, then more and more we can stay connected and be totally relaxed. And that is the inspiring aspect that we really want to connect. That we can convince the mind that it is more interesting to be connected than to roam all over the place. And when that relaxation is getting even stronger, we can directly also involve the willpower. But it is not advisable to desperately, with willpower, trying to achieve what we are attempting to do, because there comes the tension, that in itself becomes an obstacle, and it's not helpful to convince the mind that this is worthwhile to do because it looks like a heavy, heavy job. That means a new burden. So connect and relax. Attempt to connect and relax. And do it again and relax. This is an important aspect. It's good to remember. Okay? Again, I'm asking, is there anyone who would like to say something? You're welcome to come in.
Hello, Werner.
Hello. Nelly?
Yeah, thank you, Werner. Thank you for your inspiration. I want to share what helps me connect and to relax.
Okay.
Yeah, when I remind myself when I sit or even in my daily life, when I remember myself that I am a beloved child of God, and then I am in the God's womb. Yeah, and it helps me to relax and feel myself safety. Yeah, and when some thoughts come inside me, when I during meditation, I feel often I feel some tension because this thought takes my attention and yes, takes all my attention. And when I remember this, that I am child of God and His moment, or I'm a drop in the God's ocean, dissolving in it. It's really amazing for me that it becomes work for me, that I really become feeling this relaxation. And then the first thing, the important thing is this connection with God for me is very important. This is first very important thing for me that helps me to connect, to feel this relaxation. And when I am in this condition, then I understand I can solve all the difficulties that come when I just in this relaxation, this connection. Yes, it's amazing because it didn't work for me before, but later I works. It's a miracle for me, and I use it in my daily life when I do daily things, not only in meditation but everything I do. And very often thoughts come in my head and occur me, and I already become think of something else, not what I do now. And every time I remember this again, the time in the womb of the God, yes, and I'm dissolving in the God's ocean. Yes, and everything is okay. I'm safety. It's miracle for me now. I like God gives me some life hacks from time to time, something that helps me to go on.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Yes, if that helps you to be relaxed, then this is wonderful. By all means, continue doing so. Feeling protected, feeling safe. Nothing can really happen to you, to that which is important. And actually, you are touching an important point here. Why are people always so tense? Because everybody is full of fear and cannot feel safe. So if something helps you to feel safe, then it's possible to relax. And your picture that helps you so much is great, wonderful. then you feel that divine connection, you feel that you are so protected by God that it's also safe to relax. It's, of course, an illusion that we are safer when we are not relaxing. It's an illusion that somehow we are more protected if we are all tense, but that's the habitual reaction for danger, for fear, than being all tense. And if you're conscious, opening your heart to that connection with the divine in this way helps you, that is wonderful. Great, continue like that.
Yeah, thank you, Werner. It's very important thing you said, that this is a illusion when I think that if I am tense, I'm safety. I should be keep something under control or something else, but it really is so don't help anymore. Don't at all. Doesn't help at all. Yes, it takes my forces for this, but when I feel relaxed, it's a miracle that outside things happens very good. Yes, very forget all the things. Yeah. Yes, it really works. And if I ask myself, sometimes I ask myself, who am I? And answer, I am a beloved child of God. And really, I feel this relaxation. So I don't need to worry about anything.
Yes, great, wonderful.
Thank you, Werner. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hari Om. Hari
Hari
Om.
Om.
Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to say something? All right. Now, with what we have been talking, we have touched another subject, fear. Fear is something that is moving people all the time. We have our ideas about ourselves, and then these ideas, they are vulnerable. They can be shaken up, they can be destroyed. And so there is always that fear of losing something. And one looks for safety, which Nelly so nicely described. She finds in that attitude being just immersed in God's ocean, the warmth of God. But if one doesn't have that, then fear is the motivating force for doing so many things, but fear is always with tension. Fear is always limiting the consciousness. That there in a dangerous situation, a moment of fear comes as a reaction, as a survival instinct, there's nothing wrong. If one walks at the precipice and there comes that moment of fear, there's absolutely nothing wrong. It stops you and you step a step back. But then we can let it go. And how can we deal with fear? I've been talking before about it, but let's talk once again about it. Fear is an emotion, but with that emotion comes that tension. What are we afraid of? We are of the basic fear is the fear of annihilation. Even if somebody has a lot of money and loses is afraid of losing the money, that fear is still connected to that fear of annihilation, of after that not being capable of defining oneself in the way we are used to define ourselves. But what you are cannot be destroyed. Whether you are just finding that safety, connecting with that sense of presence that you are touching when you say I, or whether you find that safety, like Nelly described now, just to feel that connection with God and feel protected naturally. It doesn't matter. That safety we don't find outside. One can create an environment and create do all kind of safety, have all kinds of safety installations and hope to be safe like this. On a certain level, it may help that somebody cannot break into the house so easily, but that sense of being insecure, that fear of what could happen, cannot be taken away by that. Fear is an emotion. If it comes, it's there a moment, it goes, it's not a problem, like all emotions. But if the fear is settling into the life and directing us, then we are slaves. That's also what people are using when they want to control other people. They have to somehow manage to get them afraid. And once people are afraid, it's much easier to direct them, to control them. Then they have the feeling, if somebody directs them, then there is a certain safety in it. All this safety is, of course, illusory. Like the safety that when you are getting all tense, that you are safer than when you relax. It's a complete illusion, but everybody does it in a moment of when there is a strain, when there is an unpleasant situation, without being aware, everybody is tensing up and to protect oneself. Protecting what? Protecting an ID, protecting an image, protecting not what we are. That which you are needs no protection. Nothing can hurt it. So when the fear is there, then let's not be afraid of the fear. Let the fear be there, and we look at it, observe it, what it is doing, and if we stop feeding it, it will start to go away. It evaporates. Fear can only install itself in people's life and stay with them and direct their life and their show all the time if we keep on renewing it, if we keep on holding on to it, if we keep on repeating to ourselves all that could happen, identifying with the image that we have created in the mind and want to desperately defend it, then the fear can install itself. But if we start to just see fear for what it is, it's an emotion, it's an energy. And if we stop feeding it, if we stop holding on to it, it gradually disappears. And you become aware you are much safer if you relax. You're much more natural if you relax. You're much more yourself if you relax. And that sense of presence cannot be destroyed. It's not the image that you are, the image we're creating and then want to protect. And in spite of wanting to protect it, it's always changing. It's never staying the same, and it's always in danger of being attacked. But that which you are, that sense of presence that is prior to all that, is already safe. We don't have to do something about it. And fear cannot reach here. So fear is definitely something that is only possible within the relativity. And if we are full of fear, then instead of fighting it, then instead of trying to suppress it, then instead of doing all kinds of safety measures in order to get rid of that fear, accept, okay, it's there. Fear is there. But then I watch what it is doing. I see there is that emotion. I see how the body is getting tense and cramped up because of it. I see energetically how there are like knots in the flow of the energy because of it. And if we see all that, then we become also aware, okay, but I see all that. There is an aspect that is not involved, and from there, from here, we can give that impulse, relax, let go, relax, let go. Gradually, if you are not feeding it, if you are not feeding it by being overwhelmed by it, if you are not feeding it by fighting it, if you just watch that emotion fear, and watch what it is doing to our experience right now, and consciously start to relax, then the fear gradually goes away. And even if somebody has the habit of being afraid a lot, if we deal with that fear again and again like this, that habit also starts to disappear. It's an emotion that has its place, like all the emotions. Nothing wrong with the emotions, they have their place, but no emotion should install itself and stay on and on and on. Emotions are ripples, waves in that lake of consciousness. They come, they are there a moment, they go. They make this human existence a bit more juicy even. And so the fear has also its place. As I said, in a situation like you walk at a precipice, a moment that fear is there, yes, okay, helps you to stop, to step a step back. Seeing that we are putting our body unnecessarily into danger, a moment of fear may come there. Let it come. It helps to step back and you let it go. The psychological fear is a bit more difficult, but basically it's the same. If there is on a psychological level a severe attack, there may be a fear. And that also is not wrong. Oh, a moment, but then we see, okay. And instead of getting more afraid and getting more in a victim mood and getting more in that space where we're just running and hiding and protecting, trying to protect, but we accept, okay, there is a difficulty. Instead of holding on to the fear, relax. And the more you are capable of doing that, the more you are capable of relaxing, the more you can also face no matter what psychological attack is there, what energetic attack is there. Attack on any level, the more you relax, your attention is getting rooted in that pool of beingness that cannot be hurt, where you are safe. And then it doesn't matter whether you call it, like Nelly just said, the ocean of God, or your own self. You are safe. Nothing can happen to that. Okay, I stop bubbling away by myself. Is there anybody else who wants to come in? say something, you're welcome. There's some more time.
Hello.
Hello, Andreas.
Lately, the taking care of my uncle feels more and more like a burden to me.
Mhm.
He's like 90 years old. He's got dementia, and he's not a very grateful person. And I spend like hours a week making phone calls to try to get him into an elderly home or arrange some daycare. And he doesn't even understand it. And if it goes badly, he will say, "No, I don't go there." And on the other day, he's completely desperate because he doesn't know how it should go on, and he feels lonely, and he's uh, disturbed in his mind so that he cannot use any modern devices. This is it's a complete mess, and it really feels like a burden. How can I deal with that?
So you want me to comment on that?
How can I deal with it, not taking it so that it doesn't feel so much like a burden? I mean, I know that I have some resistance against all the work that I have to do for him, because I mean we don't have we don't have a very loving relationship. He's a difficult person, and he's not very grateful for what I do for him, and he all takes it for granted anyway, or he doesn't even see it. And this, yeah, and on the other hand, I feel pity for him because sometimes he's really desperate now. Like, and I'm the only person who can do it. There's no other person nearby who can do anything else. All the work is on my shoulders.
Yeah. Of course, if there is resistance, then it becomes heavy. I can understand that you are not overjoyed about the situation. But then either you continue doing what you are doing, but learn to accept, okay, it's part of my story. It's now on the program. And then when you accept, then even if it's physically sometimes trying, it won't feel that much like a burden. But if you do it and you always think, oh, I don't like it, I don't want it, then it's really difficult to go on like this. Or if that is not, if you feel, no, it's enough, somehow you have to delegate something, then maybe you could still find in one way or another a professional help around that is at least taking part of your job away.
Yeah, that's difficult to find someone because yeah, so yeah, and then I mean a lot of times the things that I start end up being in vain. Like I organize something, and then like I try to get him some hearing aids, and then he doesn't like the guy in the shop, and he says, "No, I don't go there anymore."
Yeah.
Just like the guy in the shop. So I've been there with him 3 times, and it's all for nothing. And this is a regular example how it works. Like I try to get him into daycare, and then he says, "No, I don't like it there," and he doesn't go there. And next day he's completely desperate because he's so much alone. So yeah.
Right. Obviously, you need not expect anything reasonable from his side. Then again, either you just accept the situation that it is as it is, that you do your thing and he doesn't show any gratefulness, he doesn't even recognize that actually you are doing a lot for him. If you can accept it, then what you are doing is seva, is becoming karma yoga. because then you do it without expecting something. But if the expectation is there that there is some sense, some reason there, and then you obviously get disappointed all the time. So again, I'm saying either you learn to accept that is the situation, and if you accept, then it doesn't feel that much of a burden. Then you accept, okay, it seems on the program, it's not what I would have consciously chosen, but since it's there, you go for it. And if you accept, then already it's much easier. Then you are not tense about doing it, and you know in a forehead that the many things you try to do, you try to inspire him to do this or do that, and then it ends up not manifesting because he somehow sabotages the whole thing again. If you accept this is what I'm doing, this is on my program, then you can do it playfully and you don't feel it as a big burden. But again, I'm saying maybe officially could be help arranged, whether he likes it or not, simply to remove part of your burden. If you prefer that, then you may have to take those steps and accept that you have to get involved with the official machine and try to organize something for him that can take at least partly away your engagement. Obviously, it's not an easy situation, and there is no easy way out. So better to accept, all right, the situation is as it is, and unpleasant and difficult situations are challenges to teach me to become stronger, to even in those situations be capable of connecting with your essence and learning to relax. And then you are not having that feeling that you are wasting your time.
I mean, I got already some help in with like people who bring him his medication and a cleaning person and another person who goes to him once or twice a week. But I need more, and I'm just afraid to put up an ad to search for someone. I have to see these people and make arrangements, and then we even have to employ them officially. And then like after 3 weeks, it might not work because he doesn't get along with the person. This is like 20, 40 hours again for nothing. But I mean, okay, this is like usually it's that way. But part of the problem is that it was a kind of a conscious decision because I moved here 2.5 years ago because my mother has had dementia too, and over here I moved from another place. So because here there were some good elderly care homes where I could put her, and I expected him to help maybe a little bit with the care of his sister, but he didn't even visit her once in the elderly. But to move here and it included somehow because I could see it coming that he will need my help sooner or later too because he has cancer too. Oh. But yeah, I didn't see it coming that it would be so much, and that I could see that I'm the only person that if I'm not here, he would be only helped by city officials.
Right. If you really deeply accept, okay, somehow I maneuvered myself in that situation like this because I accepted that's what I have to do. Deep down, it was clear for you that it's on you. It falls on your shoulders. but then you got more than you are bargained for. Then accept, all right, life is like this. You can accept certain things that, okay, I accept that I have a certain responsibility or a duty here or there. And then after that, life brings much more than what we thought. And there, learn not to resist. All right, it's not for nothing that we are going through what we are going through. The more a situation is difficult, the more it's a challenge that actually we can learn to get stronger by not resisting, by accepting, not being a victim. Of course not, absolutely not being a victim of the situation, but freely accepting, all right, I still continue, I go for it, but with the intent to be more and more relaxed about it, instead of feeling more and more that I have to carry a heavy burden. And then actually doing such a thing of which I know, actually you don't ever get the feedback of gratefulness of somebody who says, oh, it's so wonderful that you are doing that, of somebody who is seeing what kind of an effort you are making, knowing that all that is not there, then you can really make it into a spiritual exercise of becoming stronger, of overcoming that personality that is there, that is resisting. And then you accept, all right, it's not to my liking exactly, but I accept the situation and do what I'm doing without expectations. And then in doing so, it helps you to grow, to go deeper into your own resources and to become stronger. And then it in itself, in a awkward form, is becoming a spiritual exercise.
Okay, I try.
Right, right. And then you sometimes have a good laugh with him.
That's difficult too.
It's difficult, right? I wish you good luck with it.
Thank you.
Hari Om, Hari Om.
Uh,
There anybody else? There's some more time if we want to. Who would like to come in? Okay. So to the end of the satsang, let me come back to how I started today. No matter what is happening, there is that sense of presence. When you say I, you are touching something immediately, totally familiar, ever present, never in pain, never suffering. That sense of presence that is prior to everything. If we learn to connect with that consciously, the connection is always there. It cannot possibly be severed. It's not that we have lost that connection and we have to struggle to get that connection back. It's there. Without that, nothing is. Without that, there is no experience. Without that basic, essential beingness, that sense of presence that is prior to everything, there is no experience. It's that which makes all the experience possible. So we are never really disconnected, but in our mind we have created that illusion of being disconnected. And so, in order to overcome that illusion of being disconnected, we have to consciously connect. Learn to consciously connect. No matter what. It doesn't matter whether we are doing that through inquiry, whether we are doing it to just feel the body and relax. Be aware of the breath and relax. Be aware of God's presence and relax. But if we learn to do so, if we learn to live our life being rooted in that, then we can face challenges. Then also a difficult situation like Andreas describes it with a close family member, one has taken over the responsibility to take care of, and it may be very unrewarding on that level. It becomes a challenge that we can face and can help us to be even stronger. The more we are capable to relax, to get rooted, to be aware of that sense of presence in spite of difficulties that come along, the stronger we become, the more we come back in the direction to live naturally, to be back home in that natural state where we simply, effortlessly, all the time are rooted in that. So it's good to remember if difficult situations are there, either we change the situation if we can, or then we learn to accept. But not as a victim, not beaten, no, with strength. Accept, okay, it's a challenge. That in spite of all the resistance that I feel comes up in me, I let it go. I learn to bring the attention back to that which is not affected by whatever is happening and learn to relax. And then difficult situations make us stronger, help us on the way to become again natural, what we are meant to be. I wish you all well. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.